Hello everyone, this week's Parsha is Parsha Naso, in which we're going to see a different way of understanding what is the prohibition of a Nazir to abstain from wine and to not become Tameh. And we're going to try to understand a little bit what is the concept of Nazir doing through seeing the Ramban and the Rambam's opinions. Of course, there's also the restraint of not only having any form of grapes and alcohol, but as well to have hair that's growing and to not cut any of the hair on the Nazir's body. Okay, now to begin, we're going to look at the psukim itself. The pasuk says over here, "V'zot Torah Nazir b'yom elot yemei Nizro yavi oto petach ol moed v'yikriv et Korbanot l'Hashem." So we know that the Nazir has to bring a korban. Now, right away on this pasuk, the Ramban is going to comment discussing why is there a korban here? What sort of sin? Now we could speculate why the Nazir is its separation, whatever it may be, but we're going to see this more clearly inside in the Ramban and then the Rambam, which seem to be opposing one another. So the Ramban begins discussing on Pasuk Yudalid here, and he says that the reason for why the Nazir has to bring korban lo nit parash. It's not explained. He's now separating away from this neder he took to become a Nazir that allowed him to become in a holy place. And it would have been fit, it should have been better if this Nazir would have continued his vow and continued to be a Nazir. He should have stayed in the state of Kedusha. The Ramban believes that the chait is the fact that he's leaving his state of Kedusha. He's going back. And he's going back to the, as the Ramban says, now he will partake of wine and he will lose his Nazir status and he's going down from his level of Kedusha. So the Ramban is viewing this as something that's inherently Kadosh and should be continued. The fact that it's discontinued is the Chet. That's the reason why it's a Chatat. Maybe it's not a Chet fully, but there is a Chatat being brought. Okay, that's the Ramban. Now look at the Rambam. It's interesting to see what he says in the Hilchot Deot. I should mention, I was led to this through looking at the Devar Torah of Rabbi Asher Brander and Torah, discussing the different opinions by Nazir. He led me to the Ramban and the Rambam, and we'll see the Ibn Ezra as well, which resolves perhaps the two contradictory statements. So the Rambam says, quoting that some people, they should not refrain from all the pleasures in the world. They should not totally move to one side and not eat any meat or not drink any wine. He mentions that those are the practices of some Kohania outdo Chavim, that some sort of idolatrous priests go about in this manner of refraining from everything. And he says this is a negative thing to do, though he does mention that one who does and a Nazir is considered to be someone who's abstaining, and for this reason is bringing a chatat. The Rambam understands that the reason why a Nazir is bringing a chatat is based off the Gemara in Tanit, which says, "Umaim Nazir shelo pirish elamin hayayin sarach kapara hamonea atzmo lekol davar davar alachat b'kama b'kama." This says that one who abstains himself from wine, a Nazir, and he has to bring a chatat. Clearly, his sin is the fact that he abstains from something in the world, from something that he could have taken full use of. The Torah permits everyone to have wine. It's just the Nazir is prohibited once he takes upon himself this vow, and even more so, one who takes upon himself additional prohibitions. So from here, we clearly see that the Ramban views a Nazir in one direction as something that's inherently kadosh, and the fact he's abstaining, he should continue abstaining, while the Rambam seems to view this abstaining as something that is negative, that he should enjoy this part of the world. Now, interestingly, the Ibn Ezra resolves perhaps this understanding or this contradiction between the Ramban and the Rambam through saying, Kimilat Nazir migzerat Nazir, through the word of a crown. By Eid ki Nazir elokav al rosho. Right, we mentioned in the pasuk itself that it's considered to be a Nazir elokav, some sort of crown of splendor on the Nazir's head. Everyone is restricted by their own ta'avot. This is a beautiful line. The Ibn Ezra says that one who is considered to be truly free and to consider to be someone who's a hamelech ha'amiti is someone who's able to control his ta'avot, his desires from this world. And that is why the Nazir gets this Nazir elokav al rosho. According to the Ibn Ezra, that's the meaning of the Nazir himself. Now, if we take this understanding, as I saw in the article by Rabbi Asher Brander, that the Ibn Ezra is really saying here that a Nazir is someone who's able to express control. And when we look at the psukim itself, when we look at the way the Ramban and the Rambam understand this fact that the Nazir is abstaining, we could say that both the Rambam's not viewing Nazirut, the abstaining from the world, as a negative thing inherently. We know the Rambam does mention that as something positive, the fact that, someone who, the Rambam says in Hilchot Nadarim that someone who is mitgaya beyofio, beneder, benazir, bekotze bedar meilu, kulan derech avodah Hashem. We know that the Rambam does see that there are positives in the Nazir and the neder to become a Nazir. Though the Rambam could be really telling us that this is the way to control desire. By abstaining from these things, one can have a better way to control these desires. That's the way Rambam views this. And that is what gives Nezo Kaval or show according to the Rambam. So both the Rambam and the Ramban are both trying to understand what is the best way to be able to control these worldly desires. According to the Rambam, it's through abstaining and then perhaps taking an overall look. And then one can better understand that one can take a neder in a proper mind frame, but first he has to abstain. And when he is abstaining, the Rambam views it better to not abstain, meaning that it's better to take part of the world. While the Ramban says that no, really the true way to control one's desire is through going through this process of Nazir, through abstaining. And that is what allows the Ramban to view this nature of the Kabbalah or show. It's this battle over desire, over control over desire. According to the Rambam, abstaining is better. It's better not to confront, according to the Ramban, it's better to abstain. According to the Rambam, it's better to not go about this route, to enjoy the worldly pleasures in that sense. And yes, there are positives according to the Rambam through becoming a Nazir, though at the end of the day, it's all about controlling desire within the Ibn Ezra, and that sort of understanding, as we saw from Rabbi Asher Brander in his article, which I'll post a link in the comments, sort of puts this all together and allows us to be able to take to mind what really is this commandment for the Nazir and gives us a clear understanding of what the Neder Nazirut really means. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.